My parents tried to trade me to their creditor, and when I refused, they put my 11-year-old sister on the same flight so I would behave. I recorded my mother saying, "If you run, she goes instead." Then I walked into college with my work shirt hidden under my coat and asked my tutor to call the police. What I did not know was that the person who sold me first was the brother I had been protecting. I was 18, legally an adult, which everyone outside my house thought meant I could just leave. People love saying that when they have never had their bank card taken, their passport hidden, their phone checked, and a little sister sleeping in the next room like a hostage with cartoon bedsheets. We lived above my father's takeaway in Small Heath, Birmingham. The sign outside said Crescent Grill, even though the crescent light had been broken for 3 years and only the word grill lit up at night. Downstairs smelled of frying oil, onions, damp cardboard, and hot metal. Upstairs smelled of cumin, laundry powder, and stress. My father Nadim ran the shop like it was a kingdom. My mother Syra kept the house like it was a courtroom. My older brother Bilal floated between both places, always in trouble and always forgiven. Then there was me, Hannah, the daughter who did invoices, cleaned tables, packed sauces, took my sister Mariam to school, and still managed to get predicted A's at college because studying was the only private room I had. Mariam was the baby. She was small for her age, with round glasses and a habit of drawing animals in the margins of every worksheet. She trusted me more than anyone, which was sweet until the day my parents used that trust as a chain around my neck. The first sign something was wrong was not dramatic. It was a man in a navy overcoat sitting in the closed shop at midnight, sipping tea from a paper cup like he owned the place. His name was Adil. I had seen him before, everyone had. He owned 3 minicab offices, 2 dessert shops, and a line of rental flats where half the community seemed to know someone who lived or owed rent. He was in his late 30s, maybe older, with expensive shoes and a beard trimmed so sharply it looked drawn on. He always smiled without showing his teeth. That night, I came downstairs because Mariam wanted Calpol and the medicine cabinet was behind the counter. I froze halfway down the stairs when I heard my father say my name. "Hannah will understand," Dad said. "She is sensible." Adil laughed softly. "Sensible girls still cry. Make sure she does that before the ceremony, not during." My hand went cold on the banister. My mother said, "She listens to me. She will agree." "No," Adil said. "She will be grateful." I should have gone back upstairs. Instead, I crouched on the step, the old carpet scratching my knee, and listened. Dad owed him money, not a little. £48,000, because the shop had been losing money for months and Bilal had apparently borrowed against the business van, the card machines, and even the upstairs lease. I did not understand all of it then. I just heard numbers, deadlines, and my father's voice getting smaller. Adil did not shout. That made him worse. "I am not a cruel man," he said. "I could take the shop. I could send men every night until your customers stop coming. I could speak to the people your son owes, but I am offering dignity." My mother whispered, "The nikah can be private first." My heart slammed so hard I thought they would hear it. Dad said, "She is in college. She can finish later," Adil replied. "My mother needs help at home. My accounts need someone trustworthy. She is quiet. She reads. I like that." My mother made a pleased sound like he had complimented a sofa. I backed up the stairs with the medicine bottle pressed against my chest. I did not sleep. I lay beside Mariam because she had climbed into my bed, feverish and sticky, and I stared at the ceiling while she breathed through her mouth. At breakfast, nobody mentioned it. Mum put paratha on my plate and told Mariam to stop chewing with her mouth open. Dad complained about the gas bill. Bilal came in wearing yesterday's hoodie and avoided everyone's eyes. I watched him. He knew. I could see it in the way he did not ask why I was shaking. After college that day, I cornered him in the alley behind the shop while he was smoking. "How much do you owe?" I asked. He flinched. "What? Don't act stupid with me." His jaw tightened. "Keep your voice down." "Are they marrying me to a deal because of you?" He looked away. That was enough. I grabbed his sleeve. "Bilal," he yanked free. "You think I wanted this?" Dad took the money too. It wasn't just me. For what? For the shop, for stock, for the VAT, for everything. And gambling? His face went red. I felt something inside me drop. Bilal had always been trouble, but soft trouble. Parking tickets, failed courses, girls calling the shop and hanging up when Mum answered. I had covered for him since I was 12 because that was what daughters did in our family. We cleaned up the mess and got praised for being patient. He took one last drag and crushed the cigarette under his trainer. "Listen, Adil isn't that bad. He's got money. You'd have your own car." I stared at him. "He's old enough to have picked me up from primary school." "He's 39, I'm 18. "Exactly, you're an adult." I laughed once because if I didn't, I was going to hit him. "Then why are you all whispering like kidnappers?" Bilal's eyes flashed. "Because you get dramatic. You think you're better than us because you read books and talk like those teachers." That hurt more than I wanted it to.
"I wanted to be a pharmacist," I said. He shrugged. "People want lots of things."
That was the first time I understood Bilal did not see my future as real. It was a spare part, something that could be removed to fix his engine. For 2 weeks, my family pretended nothing had happened while building a cage around me. First, my phone disappeared. Mum said I was spending too much time on it. When I protested, Dad put his hand flat on the table and said, "In this house, we do not argue over devices." Then my bank card vanished from my purse. Dad said he needed to keep it safe because girls at college stole from each other. I knew that was rubbish because the only money in that account came from my weekend shifts at the shop, and half the time he delayed paying me anyway. Then Mum started picking me up from college. She sat in the car outside the gate with her sunglasses on, engine running, watching the doors. If I was 5 minutes late, she called the office. My tutor, Mr. Lawson, noticed first. He was a tired-looking man with gray hair and coffee breath, but he had kind eyes. One afternoon, after chemistry, he said, "Hannah, can you stay a moment?" My stomach tightened because staying meant Mum would ask why. "I'm in a rush," I said. "This will take 2 minutes." The classroom emptied. He leaned against his desk, not too close. "You've missed 2 university application workshops," he said. "My family needed help." You also asked to withdraw from the lab trip. I'm busy and you've stopped using your college email. I looked down. My parents had changed the password. Bilal had set it up years ago, so he had the recovery access. Mr. Lawson softened his voice. Is something happening at home? For 1 second, I almost told him everything. The words rose up my throat like vomit. Then I saw Mom through the classroom window, standing in the courtyard, scanning faces. I smiled. It felt like cracking glass. No, I said. Everything's fine. He did not believe me, but he let me go. That night, Adil came for dinner. Mom cleaned the flat like the king was visiting. She made lamb pilau, koftas, salad with tiny cucumber pieces, and the pistachio dessert she only made for weddings. She told me to wear the green dress with the gold sleeves. I came out in black jeans and a long jumper. She stared at me. Change. No. Her face went still. My mother was most dangerous when she stopped moving. Dad came out of the living room. Hannah. I know what this is, I said. My voice shook, but I kept going. I'm not marrying him. Miriam was at the kitchen table doing homework. Her pencil stopped. Dad closed the door to the stairs. Mum hissed. Not in front of your sister. Why? She should know what you do to daughters. Mum slapped me. It was not the first time, but it was the first time she did it while a guest laughed in the next room. Miriam gasped. Dad grabbed my arm and pulled me into the hallway. You will not shame us. You are selling me. He squeezed harder. You eat from this house. I work in that shop. You belong to this family. No, Dad, I don't belong to anyone. The living room door opened. Adil stepped out, calm as ever, holding his tea. Let her speak, he said. It is better to hear a young person's concerns. I hated him for sounding reasonable. He looked at me like I was a difficult customer. Hannah, your parents are under pressure. I am offering a solution. You will be looked after. You will have respect. I don't want your respect. His smile thinned. What do you want? To finish college, to go to university, to choose my own life. Dad made a disgusted noise. Adil nodded slowly. Choice is a beautiful word when someone else pays for it. I said, then take the shop. The room went silent. Dad's face changed. Adil's eyes flicked to him, amused. Brave. Mum grabbed my wrist. Apologize. No. She dug her nails in. Apologize. I looked at Adil. I would rather sleep under a bridge. He set his cup on the hall table. That can be arranged. Dad shoved me into my bedroom and locked the door from the outside with the little slide bolt he had installed when Miriam was a toddler. Back then, it was to stop her wandering downstairs. Now it stopped me. Miriam cried outside my door until Mum dragged her away. I sat on the floor in the dark and realized being 18 did not matter if nobody could hear you. At 3 a.m., my bedroom door opened. Bilal stood there, backlit by the hall light. Pack a bag, he whispered. For a moment, hope made me stupid. What? Quiet. I'll take you to Amira's. Amira was our cousin on my mother's side. She had married young but seemed kind. She lived across the city with 3 kids and a husband who never spoke. She was not freedom, but she was a door out. I grabbed my college bag and stuffed in underwear, my old phone charger, my exam notes, and the only photo I had of Miriam and me at Cannon Hill Park. Bilal watched the stairs. Passport, I whispered. Mum has it. My bank card, no time. I followed him down the back stairs, heart banging. The shop shutters were half down. Outside, the alley smelled of rain and bins. Bilal opened the passenger door of Dad's car. I stopped. Adil was in the back seat. He smiled. I turned to run, but Bilal caught my arm. Don't make it worse, he said, not looking at me. That was my first betrayal. Not the worst, but the first one that split something inside me. They did not take me to Amira's. They took me to Adil's cab office on Stratford Road, where the lights buzzed and 2 drivers sat playing cards like girls were delivered there every night. Adil put me in a back room with a sofa, a desk, and a camera in the corner. You are upset, he said. That is understandable. I stood by the door. Let me go. Where? Home. He chuckled. You just rejected home. I'll call the police. With what phone? Bilal stood behind him, pale and sweating. I looked at my brother. How could you? His mouth opened, then closed. Adil answered for him, because your brother understands consequences. I spent that night on the sofa, awake, listening to phones ring through the wall and men shouting addresses. At dawn, Mum arrived with a clean outfit and red eyes. She acted like I had embarrassed her by getting kidnapped. You scared us, she said. Mouth, I stared at her. You knew where I was. You forced your father to take strong steps. No, you all chose this. She sat beside me and lowered her voice. Hannah, listen to me carefully. Men like Adil do not ask twice. If we insult him, your father loses the shop. Your brother could be hurt. We could lose the flat. Miriam could be taken from her school. Is that what you want? There are laws. Mum laughed softly. Laws do not pay debts. I said, forced marriage is illegal. Her face hardened. That was the first time I said the words out loud. She looked at the camera in the corner, then leaned close enough that I could smell cardamom on her breath. You think because you turned 18 you are untouchable? She whispered. You still have a sister. Remember that. I did remember, every minute. They took me home after that, but home changed. Mum slept with my passport under her mattress. Dad moved a chest of drawers in front of my bedroom window. Bilal installed a tracking app on the replacement phone they gave me, a cheap black thing with only family numbers saved. He said it was for safety. I knew it was a leash. I was allowed to attend college only because Dad thought pulling me out suddenly would make people ask questions. Mum walked me to the entrance and picked me up at the gate. I had to call from the office phone at lunch. If I was not downstairs within 30 seconds after class, she came in. But control has gaps, because controlling people still need you to function. They needed me to work the till. They needed me to translate council letters. They needed me to reset passwords, fill in supplier forms, print labels, and send emails because Dad still typed with one finger. That was how I found the first piece of evidence. Dad told me to print an invoice from the shop computer. His email was open. I searched my own name before I could stop myself. 3 results came up. One was a flight booking, Birmingham to Istanbul, then onward. 3 passengers, my father, me and Mariam. Departure date 14 days away. My throat closed. The second email was from a deal to Dad. It had no greeting. Once Nika is completed, balance reduced by 35,000 as discussed. Remaining amount to be handled through shop lease transfer if necessary. Girl must not attend college after next Friday. Too many outside influences. The third was a scan of my passport and Mariam's. I heard Dad moving boxes in the stockroom. My hands shook so badly I could barely click. I could not print it. He would notice. I could not email it to myself. He monitored the sent folder, so I did the only thing I could think of. I opened a new draft in Dad's email, attached the messages, and saved it without sending. Then I wrote the draft title as Garlic Sauce Supplier. Yediakaran. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep and went to the kitchen. Mum's handbag hung on the chair. I searched it slowly, careful not to jingle keys. I found my passport wrapped in a scarf, but Mariam's was not there. Then the hallway light clicked on. Mum stood in the doorway. We stared at each other. She said, looking for something. I had my passport in my hand. There was no lie big enough. Mine, I said. She crossed the room and took it from me. Not snatched. Took. Like I was a child handing over scissors. You disappoint me, she said. You're taking Mariam. If you obey, she comes back after the wedding. And if I don't, Mum smiled, but her eyes were dead. Then maybe she gets a better family than a sister who fills her head with poison. I felt fear rise so sharp I almost doubled over. She's 11. And you were sweet at 11, Mum said. Then school ruined you. I backed away. Mum lowered her voice. If you run, she goes instead. I do not know why she said it so plainly. Maybe because she believed fear erased evidence. Maybe because mothers like mine think daughters carry pain, not proof. But the cheap phone Bilal had given me was in my hoodie pocket, and I had pressed record the second the light came on. The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I lied badly on purpose. At breakfast, I told Mum I had stomach cramps and needed to go to college because I had a mock exam I could not miss. She narrowed her eyes, suspicious. Usually I made my lies smooth. This one came out clumsy, tearful, and annoying. She said, "You can revise at home." I cried harder. "Mr. Lawson will call. He already thinks something is wrong. Please, Mum, if I miss it, he'll ask questions." That part was true. Dad came in from downstairs, irritated. "Let her go. We don't need college calling here." Mum drove me herself. I kept my head against the window like I was defeated. My phone sat in my pocket with a recording, and every traffic light felt like a test from God. At the college gate, Mum grabbed my hand. "Straight to exam, straight out after." I nodded. "Hannah." I looked at her. Her voice softened in that cruel way she used when she wanted to sound like love. "Do not make me choose between my daughters." I wanted to say, "You already did." Instead, I walked through the gate. Then I ran. Not out of college, into it. Past reception, past the vending machines, past the girls fixing their eyeliner by the toilets. I ran to the staff office and asked for Mr. Lawson. The receptionist said he's in a meeting. I said my parents are forcing me to marry someone. "They're taking my little sister out of the country. Please call safeguarding now." Her face changed so fast it almost scared me. Within 10 minutes I was in a small room with Mr. Lawson, the safeguarding lead, a woman named Miss Reed, and a police officer on speakerphone. They asked if I was in immediate danger. I said yes. They asked if I had evidence. I played my mother's recording. When Mum's voice came through the phone speaker saying, "If you run, she goes instead," Mr. Lawson closed his eyes. Miss Reed stayed calm. "Hannah, you did the right thing." I started shaking then, not pretty, crying, full body shaking, teeth chattering, hands numb. They called the forced marriage unit. They called children's services for Mariam. They called the police again, this time not on speaker. Miss Reed asked if I had somewhere safe to go. I said no. "What about extended family?" she asked. "Oh," I said quickly. "They'll send me back." She nodded like she had heard that before. That should have been the moment everything became safe. It wasn't. By lunchtime, Mum was at reception screaming. I heard her before I saw her. "My daughter is ill. She needs to come home. You have no right to keep her." Miss Reed moved me into an office with frosted glass. Mr. Lawson sat with me. He gave me water in a paper cup, but I could not drink. Through the wall, I heard Dad arrive. His voice was lower, more controlled. "She is 18, he said. "If she wants to leave, she can walk out and tell us herself." The police arrived. 2 officers, 1 man and 1 woman. They spoke to me alone. I showed them the recording, the email draft on Dad's account, the flight booking, the message from a deal. The woman officer, PC Martin, asked, "Do you consent to return home?" "No." "Do you believe your sister is at risk if you do not return?" "Yes, she asked me to explain." I did. Every word tasted like betrayal. My mother's threats, Adil's office, Bilal trapping me in the car. Dad's debts, the flight. When I finished, the officers looked at each other. PC Martin said, "We're going to conduct a welfare visit for Mariam. I want to come." "No, she won't talk to strangers." "Hannah, if you go there, you may not leave again safely." She was right. I hated her for it. Children's Services placed me that night with an emergency foster carer, even though I was 18, under a supported accommodation arrangement. Her name was Denise, and she lived in a small terraced house in King's Heath with 2 locks on the front door and a cat that hated everyone. Denise did not ask me to tell the story again. She showed me the bedroom, gave me clean towels, and said, "Tea or toast?" I said, "I need to know where Mariam is." "I know. Can you call someone?" "I will, but first tea or toast." I almost snapped at her. Then I realized she was giving me a choice because nobody else had. "Tea," I whispered, "please." That night, I slept with the light on and my shoes beside the bed. At 6:12 the next morning, Miss Reed called. "Mariam is safe," she said. I slid down the wall. Children's Services had gone to her primary school before my parents could collect her. The head teacher already knew something was wrong because Mariam had arrived crying and carrying 2 stuffed animals in her backpack. Mum had told the school she had a dental appointment and would be picked up at 10. There was no appointment. Miriam told the social worker. My sister said never get in the car if mom is angry. I had told her that months before, after Adil first started visiting. They placed Miriam with an emergency foster family separately from me because they needed to assess everything. She was terrified but safe. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt like I had cut the rope between us and left her dangling with strangers. The first protective order hearing happened fast. That is what people do not understand. Sometimes the system moves slowly like old glue. Other times, when there is a flight, a child, and a forced marriage risk, it moves so quickly you can barely breathe. A solicitor named Priya Anand met me in a side room at court. She wore a navy suit and spoke like every word had a job. We're applying for a forced marriage protection order for you and emergency protective measures for Mariam, she said. Your parents and Adil will be prohibited from contacting you directly or indirectly, taking you to any airport, arranging marriage ceremonies, or removing Mariam from school. Will they be arrested? Not today unless they breach or there's enough evidence for criminal charges. Today is about protection. Protection sounds temporary. It is temporary at first, then we make it longer. I looked at my hands. My nails were bitten raw. What if the judge believes them? Priya leaned forward. Then we appeal and we keep you hidden. But Hannah, the recording is strong, the emails are strong, the flight is strong. I nodded, but court still felt like walking into a room where love could put on nice clothes and lie. My parents were there. Mom wore a cream shawl and cried silently. Dad wore his mosque jacket and looked wounded as if I had robbed him. Bilal sat behind them, eyes fixed on the floor. Adil came with a lawyer and no expression at all. When Mum saw me, she pressed both hands to her chest. My baby, she mouthed. I looked away. Their lawyer argued that I was an adult who had misunderstood family discussions. He said there was no forced marriage, only a proposal. He said the flight was for a family holiday. He said my mother's recorded words were emotional language spoken during a disagreement. Priya played the recording. The courtroom went very quiet. Then she showed the email draft. Dad's lawyer tried to argue that I could have typed it myself. Priya pointed out that the original messages were still in Dad's inbox with headers and timestamps. Adil's lawyer said the debt arrangement had nothing to do with marriage. Priya read his line aloud. Once nikah is completed, balance reduced by 35,000 as discussed. Adil stared at the table. The judge granted the temporary order. I did not feel victorious. I felt hunted. Because an order is paper. Families are flesh. They have cars, cousins, aunties, friends, WhatsApp groups, spare keys, and a lifetime of knowing what scares you. The order said my parents could not contact me, so my aunt called Denise's landline. Denise did not know how she got the number. Later, we found out Bilal had given it to my cousin who knew someone who worked in a GP reception and had seen an address update. That became another investigation, but at the time all I heard was Denise saying, "No, you may not speak to her," then hanging up with a face like thunder. The next day, flowers arrived at Denise's door. White lilies. I hated lilies. Mum knew that. When I was little, a funeral home near our old flat always had lilies in the window, and I said they smelled like dead people. The card said, "Come home before your sister forgets you." Denise photographed the flowers, the card, the delivery label, and then dumped them in the outside bin. Every contact gets recorded, she said, even the pretty ones. On day 3, my photo appeared online. Not a missing poster exactly. Worse. Dad posted a long message saying his daughter had been taken in by people who hate our values. He said I was unstable, confused, vulnerable, possibly being exploited. He asked the community to pray and report any sightings to the family. The photo he used was from Eid 2 years earlier. I was smiling in a blue outfit, henna on my hands, Mariam leaning against my shoulder. He cropped Mariam out. Within hours, people shared it. Women I had served at the shop wrote, "May Allah guide her." Men I had never met commented, "Parents know best." Someone said, "These colleges brainwash girls." Then came the private messages. "Ungrateful. Your mother is crying blood. Adil is a good man. You think English people will love you. You destroyed your brother." That last one made my stomach twist. I had not destroyed Bilal. Bilal had destroyed me first. But guilt does not care about facts. It looks for openings. Priya told me not to respond. The police told me to screenshot everything. Miss Reed told me to stop reading comments. Denise took the phone from my hand and said, "You can have it back when your face has color again." I hated being managed, even kindly, but I let her take it. The second betrayal came through Mariam. Not from her, through her. Children's Services arranged a supervised call after 4 days because Mariam was crying for me and I was barely eating. I sat in a room at the council building with a social worker named Glenn beside me. He had a shaved head and a voice so gentle it did not match his face. When Mariam appeared on the tablet screen, I started crying before she even spoke. "Hannah," she said, I'm here. Are you in trouble?" "No, baby, are you safe?" She nodded, but her eyes were puffy. "They took my purple bag." "Who?" "The lady here. She said she had to check everything." "That's normal, it's okay." Mariam leaned close to the camera. "Mum said you ran away because you don't love us." My throat closed. "No, I ran because I love you. She said if I tell lies I'll never see you again." Glenn looked up sharply. I forced myself to stay calm. "Mariam, listen to me. You will not get in trouble for telling the truth. Not with me, not with your teachers, not with the social workers." She whispered, "Bilal came to school." My blood went cold. "When?" "Before the lady took me. He was by the gate. He said if anyone asks, say the holiday was my idea." Glenn wrote something down. Mariam started crying. He said Dad might go to prison because of me. I wanted to reach through the screen and hold her. Instead, I had to sit in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights and say, "That is not your fault. Adults are responsible for adult choices." She wiped her nose on her sleeve. "Are you coming to get me?" "Yes," I said, though I did not know if that was true. "I'm trying." After the call, Glenn said, "We need to know if Bilal is acting under pressure or as part of the risk." "Both," I said. That became the story of Bilal. Always both. Always scared and selfish. Always old enough to know better and young enough in my mother's eyes to be forgiven. A week later, the police asked me to come in for a video interview. They put me in a room with soft chairs and a camera mounted on the wall. PC Martin was there, and another officer from the Public Protection Unit. They told me to start wherever I wanted. I started with the midnight conversation. Then Adil's dinner, the slap, the locked bedroom, the cab office, the flight, Mum's threat, Bilal's role, Miriam's call. It took 3 hours. Halfway through, I asked for a break and threw up in the toilet. When I came back, PC Martin said, "You're doing very well." I laughed because I was not doing well. I was just speaking. After the interview, Priya met me outside. "There's a complication," she said. I knew from her face that complication meant disaster wearing shoes. "What? Your parents are claiming you stole money from the shop." I stared at her. "What money?" £7,000 from cash takings over several months. They've reported it. I actually laughed then, loudly. A woman walking past turned to look. "I worked for free half the time." "I believe you," Priya said. "But this is a common tactic. If they make you look dishonest, they undermine your credibility. They're saying I'm a thief, and unstable, and influenced, and possibly in a relationship they disapprove of." I blinked. "What relationship?" "They suggested Mr. Lawson has an inappropriate interest in you." The world tilted. "No, I know. No, they can't do that. They can try." That was the day I understood that escaping is not one act. It is a door you open, and then everyone who wanted you trapped starts throwing their bodies against it. College suspended Mr. Lawson from direct contact with me while they investigated. They had to. I understood that. But it broke something in me because he was one of the first adults who believed me, and my family punished him for it. Miss Reed stayed involved, but I could see the strain. Every email now had extra people copied in. Every meeting had 2 staff members. My parents had poisoned the safest place I had. Then they went after Denise. A man came to her door pretending to deliver takeaway menus. When she did not open, he pushed one through the letterbox with a note written on the back. "Harboring girls has consequences." Denise read it, snorted, and called the police. I wanted to be brave like her, but that night I packed my bag and put it by the bed. She saw it and said, "You planning a holiday?" "I don't want them to hurt you. Hannah, I have fostered teenage boys who threw microwaves. Your father's cousins do not impress me. You don't know them." "No," she said, "but I know bullies. They rely on people being polite." Still, the council moved me 2 days later, not because Denise was scared, but because the address was compromised. I cried when I left. Her cat watched from the stairs like I owed him rent. My new placement was a supported flat with staff downstairs. It was clean, anonymous, and lonely. I had a bedroom, a kettle, a microwave, and a window facing a brick wall. For the first time in my life, nobody told me when to eat, pray, sleep, study, or shower. Freedom felt like being dropped in the sea. I did not know how to buy groceries without calculating what Mum would approve. I did not know how to sleep without listening for footsteps. I did not know how to cook one portion because I had always cooked for 6. I kept making too much rice and crying over it. Miriam was placed with a foster couple named Joan and Peter. I was not allowed their address, which I hated and understood. She started calling me from a supervised number twice a week. She told me about their dog, a fat beagle named Toast. She told me her new school gave her a reading buddy. She asked if Mum was angry. I said probably. "Is she angry forever?" "I don't know. Are you?" I looked at the wall. "I'm angry because I love you." Miriam thought about that. "That doesn't make sense." "It will one day." The permanent order hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. Priya said we needed more evidence because my parents were fighting hard. They had hired a better lawyer, funded by Adil. They had community leaders writing letters saying Dad was generous, Mum was devoted, and Adil was respected. Respected. That word followed men like Adil around like perfume covering rot. Priya asked if anyone else knew about his behavior. I thought of the drivers in his office, the women in his flats, the way people lowered their voices when he walked into the shop. "There was a woman," I said slowly, "a customer. She warned me once." Priya waited. "She came to the shop about a year ago, maybe more. She ordered food and saw Adil talking to Dad. When he left, she told me not to be alone with him. I thought she was being strange." "Do you know her name?" "No." "What did she look like?" "Tall, maybe mid-30s, scar on her wrist. She wore a red coat." Priya did not look hopeful, but she wrote it down. 2 days later, I remembered something else. The woman had paid by card. I had served her. If the transaction logs went back that far, maybe there was a name. The problem was the logs were on the shop computer. Priya said, "Do not go there." I wasn't going to. She gave me a look. "I'm not stupid. I didn't say you were. I said desperation makes intelligent people take bad risks." She was right, so I called Bilal. I was not supposed to contact family directly because it could complicate things, but the order restricted them, not me. Priya would have shouted if she knew. I used a withheld number from the staff office downstairs. Bilal answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello." He sounded tired. "It's me." Silence. "Then Hannah, I need something from the shop computer," he breathed out. "You shouldn't call. You gave them Denise's number. I didn't know they'd use it like that." I closed my eyes. "Bilal, I'm sorry." "No, you're not." "You're scared." He did not answer. "I need card machine records from last year. A woman in a red coat warned me about a deal. I need her name." "You think I can just send you customer data? You already sent me to Adil's office in the middle of the night." "That's not fair." I almost laughed. "Fair?" His voice cracked. "They said if I didn't help, Adil's men would come for me. And if you did help, they would come for me. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He went quiet. I heard the fryer beeping in the background, Dad shouting at someone. Then Bilal whispered, "Miriam okay?" I gripped the phone harder. "You don't get to ask that after going to her school." "Mum made me." "No, Mum asked you. You went." Another silence. "I didn't think they'd actually take her," he said. That was Bilal's whole life in one sentence. He never thought the fire would burn because someone else always got blistered first. "Find the transaction," I said. "Or don't. But if you care about Miriam at all, stop helping them." I hung up. For 2 days, nothing. Then an email arrived from an address I did not recognize. No message, just an attachment, a spreadsheet of card transactions from the month I remembered. One payment matched the day. Customer name, Kiran Malik. Priya traced her through public records. Kiran had once been married to Adil. That changed everything. Kiran did not want to talk at first. Priya reached her through a women's support charity and the response came back. No police, no court, no involvement. I understood. Fear recognizes fear. But a week later, Kiran agreed to meet me and Priya in the charity office as long as no one used her current address. She looked almost the same as I remembered, tall and tired with a thin scar across her wrist. No red coat this time. She wore gray and kept glancing at the door. When she saw me, her face folded. I hoped you weren't the girl, she said. I did not know what to say. She sat across from us and held a paper cup of coffee without drinking it. Adil likes debts, she said. Not money, debts. Money is just the rope. He likes people owing him. Priya asked, were you forced to marry him? Kiran shook her head. Not forced by family, forced by circumstance. I was 22, in rent arrears, stupid, proud. He paid things, then every kindness became a bill. She told us he isolated her, controlled her wages, made her work in his office, tracked her car, threatened her brother. When she tried to leave, he accused her of stealing from the business. The same amount changed every time he told the story. 5,000, 10, 20. Whatever sounded convincing. My skin prickled. Did he ever use marriage to settle debts? Priya asked. Kiran looked at me. Yes. My mouth went dry. There was a girl before me, she said. Not a wife, almost. Her uncle owed money. She disappeared from college. Her friends made noise, so the family sent her abroad for a few months. When she came back, she was married to someone else, not Adil. But he got the uncle's shop. Do you know her name? Kiran hesitated. You don't have to, Priya said. Kiran rubbed the scar on her wrist. I'll write a statement, but I won't stand in court unless I have to. That statement became our second pillar. The first was my mother's threat. The second was Adil's pattern. The third came from the person I least expected, Bilal. Not because he became noble overnight. That would be too easy. He came because Adil turned on him. Adil wanted Dad to sign over part of the shop lease before the wedding as security. Dad refused because Dad could trade a daughter but not a business. So Adil sent 2 men to wait outside closing time. They did not beat Bilal. They just opened the passenger door of his car and sat with him for 8 minutes. The next morning, Bilal called me from a blocked number, breathing like he had run miles. I need to talk. No, please. Call Priya. I can't. Then no. He swore under his breath. Hana, he has copies of your passport, Mariam's passport, everything. He has Dad's signatures, he has mine. It caught me. Your signatures on what? Bilal started crying. I had heard my brother angry, smug, drunk, defensive. I had never heard him cry like a child. I signed your name, he said. The room seemed to shrink. What? When we borrowed more money, Adil said because you did the accounts it would look normal if you were listed as admin guarantor. He said it wasn't real, just paperwork. I signed your name on a loan acknowledgement. I sat down slowly. Bilal kept talking, words tumbling. And on a work agreement for his office, it says you agreed to help manage accounts after marriage. Dad knew, Mum knew. They said it would all be family anyway. My hands went numb. That was why Adil kept saying I owed, not just my father, me. He had built a paper cage before I even knew there was a door. Send everything to Priya, I said. I don't have copies. Then get them. He'll know. He already knows you're disposable. That landed. I heard his breath change. Bilal, I said, quieter. They put Mariam on the flight. She's 11. If I had obeyed, do you think they would stop with me? He said nothing. If you keep protecting them, one day you'll be sitting outside another room while she screams. He made a sound like I had hit him. Get the documents, I said. Not for me, for her. He hung up. That night, someone tried to get into my building. The supported flat had a buzzer and CCTV. At 11:40 p.m., a man in a black jacket pressed every buzzer until someone answered. He said he was delivering food. Staff refused him entry. He left a plastic bag outside the door. Inside was a takeaway container from Crescent Grill. Under the lid was my old college ID cut in half. No note. The message was clear. We can reach your old life. We can reach this one too. The police increased patrols. The council moved me again, this time to a women's refuge outside my usual area but still within Birmingham. I cannot describe the location even now. It was a normal house on a normal road, and inside were women and children whose stories sat at the breakfast table like ghosts. There was a woman who jumped every time the toaster popped, a toddler who hid food in shoes, a grandmother who had left after 40 years and still asked permission before changing the TV channel. I belonged there and hated that I belonged there. Mariam could not visit, but we had video calls. I got better at smiling for her. She got better at pretending not to cry. Joan, her foster carer, sent updates through Glenn. Mariam was eating. Mariam had nightmares. Mariam drew a picture of our old flat with the windows blacked out. Mariam asked if sisters could be legal family if parents said no. I asked Priya the same question. Can I get custody of her? You're 18, in unstable housing and in the middle of trauma, Priya said gently. Long term, maybe. Immediately, unlikely. So she stays with strangers. She stays with safe adults while we build a plan. I'm safe, I know, but safety is not just love. I hated that too. The permanent order hearing approached, and my family grew more desperate. Mum sent voice notes through other women. I did not listen, but Priya had to. She transcribed them for evidence. In one, Mum sobbed that she had not eaten in 3 days. In another, she said Mariam was becoming English and would be lost forever. In a third, she said, Hana, a mother's curse reaches anywhere. Dad tried a different route. He went to the mosque committee and asked them to mediate. The committee sent a letter to Priya offering a family reconciliation meeting. Priya declined so hard I could hear her through the email. Then Adil made his mistake. He filed a civil claim against me for breach of contract. According to him, I had agreed to work for his company and help manage accounts in exchange for debt reduction to my family. He included the documents Bilal had mentioned with my forged signature. Priya looked almost pleased when she saw them. He's admitted the debt and your supposed role, she said, but the signature is fake. Exactly, we get handwriting comparison. We get your college attendance records proving you were in an exam when one document was supposedly signed, and we use this to show financial coercion. For the first time, Adil's cleverness became useful to us. He had written the rope down. Bilal sent the rest 3 days before court, not by email. He was too scared of Adil monitoring him. He left a brown envelope with Priya's receptionist, then ran before anyone could speak to him. Inside were photocopies of debt ledgers, passport scans, the forged documents, and a USB drive. The USB drive had CCTV clips from the shop's back office. I watched them in Priya's office with my arms wrapped around myself. There was Dad, rubbing his forehead while Adil spoke. There was Mum, sitting straight-backed, saying, Hana is stubborn but she loves Mariam. Use that. There was Bilal, pacing, saying, this is too much. And there was Adil, calm as ever. Then pay me by Friday, he said. If you cannot pay with money, pay with obedience. Priya paused the video. I could not breathe. Mum had not been dragged along by Dad. She had not been trapped by culture or fear or wifehood. She had planned the exact place to press until I broke. I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in. Priya knocked once and said, take your time. I looked in the mirror and saw my mother's eyes in my face. That was the hardest part. Not Dad's violence, not Adil's threats, not Bilal's betrayal. It was knowing Mum understood my love for Mariam because she had built it with me. She had watched me feed her, bathe her, walk her to school, sleep beside her when she was ill. Then she turned that love into a weapon and called it motherhood. The day of the permanent hearing, I wore a plain black dress Denise had bought me. She came with me, even though I no longer lived with her. Miss Reed came too. Kiran waited in another room in case the judge needed her. Priya carried 3 folders and looked like she could fight a building. My family filled one side of the courtroom. Not as many as before, but enough. Aunties with tight mouths, uncles pretending to be calm, community men who had never once asked if I was safe but now had opinions about family unity. Mum looked thinner, Dad looked older, Bilal was not there. Adil sat behind his lawyer, checking his watch. The judge began by saying the matter concerned protection, not cultural judgment. I appreciated that, but I also knew people used culture like a blanket to cover bruises. Their lawyer argued first. He said I was an adult and should not be prevented from seeing my own family if emotions cooled. He said my parents loved me. He said the marriage discussion was only a proposal. He said the flight had been cancelled so risk had passed. He said Mariam had been influenced by me and social workers. Then he said the CCTV clips were taken without consent. Priya stood. She was calm, almost too calm. She laid out the timeline piece by piece. The debt, the proposal, the threats, the locking in, the cab office, the forged documents, the flight booking, the attempted school removal. The online harassment, the third-party contact, the civil claim, Kiran's statement, Mariam's disclosure, my mother's recording. Then she played the CCTV. I did not look at my parents. I looked at the judge. When Mum's voice said, use that, the judge's pen stopped moving. Their lawyer tried to recover. A distressed mother speaking under financial pressure may use unfortunate language. Priya replied, a distressed mother does not book a flight for an 11-year-old child and threaten to substitute her into coercion if her older daughter escapes. Mum started crying. For once, nobody moved to comfort her. Then the judge asked if I wished to speak. Priya whispered, you don't have to. But I did. I stood with my hands shaking at my sides. My parents keep saying this is about respect, I said. But respect did not need my passport hidden. Respect did not need my sister taken out of school. Respect did not need forged signatures. I am not asking the court to decide whether my family loves me. Maybe they do, in their way. I am asking the court to stop them from using that love as a weapon. My voice broke on the last sentence, but I finished. I want my sister safe. I want to finish college. I want to stop being payment for a debt I did not make. Adil looked bored. That almost made me lose control. The judge granted a long-term forced marriage protection order for me and Mariam. My parents, Bilal and Adil, were barred from contacting us directly or indirectly. They could not come near my college, Mariam's school, our placements, airports, ports, passport offices, or any ceremony connected to marriage. Mariam's passport was seized. Mine was returned to me through the police. The judge also referred the forged documents and coercion evidence for criminal investigation. Dad shouted then. Not words, just a sound. The sound of a man realizing the room did not belong to him. Adil stood and walked out before the judge finished speaking. That was not the end. People think court orders roll credits over your life. They don't. They start a new season with more paperwork. The police arrested Adil first. Not dramatically, not with sirens in the night. They went to his office with warrants and took computers, ledgers, and phones. 2 of his drivers gave statements after that. Not because they were heroes, but because they were tired of being unpaid and threatened. Dad was interviewed under caution. Mum too. Bilal disappeared for 4 days, then turned himself in with a solicitor after Priya told his solicitor that running made him look worse. I did not see any of them. I sat my exams from a separate room at college with Miss Reed outside the door. Mr. Lawson was cleared of the disgusting accusation, but he still looked smaller when he returned. He apologized to me for the system needing to investigate. I said, you didn't do anything wrong. He said, neither did you. I cried in the disabled toilet for 10 minutes after that. Mariam slowly became a child again. Not all at once. Trauma does not leave because adults sign papers. She still had nightmares. She still asked if Mum could see through windows. She still hid bread under her pillow at Joan and Peter's house because she was scared she might be moved with no food. But she also joined art club. She named the Beagle Toast's emotional assistant. She started correcting my grammar in texts. She asked for glitter pens. Glitter pens were a good sign. The first time I saw her in person after the order, it was in a contact room with Glenn supervising. She ran at me so hard the chair behind me fell over. I held her and felt how thin her shoulders were. I thought you changed your mind, she sobbed. Never. Mum said you would. Mum said lots of things. She pulled back. Are we orphans? The question punched the air out of me. No, I said. We have parents. They just can't look after us safely right now. She frowned. That sounds like social worker words. It is. Say it normal. I swallowed. We're not alone. She leaned into me again. That's better. The criminal case took months. During that time, the community split itself into pieces around us. Some people said my parents had been wrong, but I should have kept it private. Some said a deal had manipulated everyone. Some said girls these days learned one law and destroyed entire families. A few women quietly messaged Priya's office asking for help with daughters, nieces, sisters. They never messaged me directly, but I heard. Crescent Grill closed after the landlord refused to renew the lease. Dad blamed me online until his solicitor made him stop. The broken crescent sign came down on a Tuesday. Denise drove me past it once because I asked her to. The shop looked smaller with the shutters down. I expected to feel grief. Instead, I felt tired. That place ate my childhood, I said. Denise parked across the road. You want chips? I laughed for the first time in weeks. From where? Anywhere that didn't enslave you. We got chips from a place with sticky tables and no memories. Bilal asked to see me before sentencing. Priya advised against it. Glenn advised against it. Denise said, only if you're doing it for you, not for his guilt. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I agreed to one meeting in a solicitor's office with Priya present. Bilal looked awful. He had lost weight. His beard was patchy. He kept rubbing his hands together like he could wash himself invisible. When he saw me, he started crying. I'm sorry, he said. I sat down. For which part? He flinched. Good. All of it, he said. I was scared. I was stupid. I thought if you married him it would be bad for a while, but then settle. I stared at him. That is what you thought my life was worth, a bad while? He covered his face. I did not comfort him. He said, I told them everything in my statement, about the signatures, about the car, about Adil's office, about Mum saying Miriam could be used. Why? He looked up, confused. Why now, I asked. Not why should I forgive you. I'm asking what finally made you tell the truth. He swallowed. Because when Adil's men came, Dad said maybe it would be easier if Miriam stayed with him for a few days as a guarantee. Mum didn't say no. I went cold. They were still thinking of using her, he whispered, even after you left. That should have shocked me. It didn't. It confirmed something I already knew but had been too scared to name. Bilal said, I'll never forgive myself. I stood. That's your job, not mine. He nodded, crying harder. At the door, I paused. You were my brother, I said. That meant something to me. I don't know if it ever meant enough to you. He had no answer. I left without hugging him. The sentencing happened almost a year after the night I recorded Mum. Adil pleaded guilty to coercive and controlling behavior related to Kiran after more evidence came out, fraud connected to forged documents, and attempting to arrange a forced marriage. His lawyers fought the forced marriage charge hard, but the emails, CCTV, and debt documents were too clear. Other charges stayed on file. He got prison time. Not enough, in my opinion, but enough that his office windows were dark for a while and men stopped lowering their voices when saying his name. Dad pleaded guilty to fraud and to breaching forced marriage protections through third-party contact. Mum pleaded guilty later, after months of insisting she had only been emotional. Her plea was not noble. It came after the prosecution played the recording and CCTV in pre-trial hearings, and her solicitor probably told her a jury would hear her say, use that. Bilal got a suspended sentence and community service because he cooperated and gave evidence. I had complicated feelings about that. Some days I thought he deserved prison. Other days I thought living with himself might be worse. Most days I tried not to think about him. My parents did not go to prison for a long time, but they went long enough for everyone to stop pretending nothing had happened. Mum hated that more than anything. Not the sentence, the exposure. Miriam was not returned to them. That was the consequence I had been waiting for since the morning I ran into college. After assessments, court hearings, reports, and more meetings than any child should have to sit near, the plan became clear. Miriam would stay with Joan and Peter in long-term foster care until I was stable enough to apply for a special guardianship arrangement. I hated the wait, but I no longer confused fast with safe. I finished college. I did not get the perfect grades I once wanted. Trauma ate chunks of my memory and spat them out during exams. But I got enough. Enough became my favorite word. Enough to start a foundation year in pharmacy. Enough to rent a room in a shared house with a landlord who fixed locks properly. Enough to buy my own phone, my own groceries, my own ugly orange kettle because Miriam said my room needed one ridiculous thing. The first time my passport came back to me, I carried it in my bag for a week. Not because I wanted to travel, because I could. 2 years later, Mum tried to reach me again. Not directly, she knew better. A woman from our old community sent Priya a message saying Mum was unwell and wanted to see her daughters. The message said, whatever happened, she is still their mother. Priya forwarded it with one line, no need to respond unless you want to. I sat with that message for a long time. Miriam was 13 by then, taller, louder, still drawing animals, but now they had swords and crowns. She came over to my flat every other weekend and we burned pancakes regularly because neither of us had inherited Mum's patience with batter. I asked if she wanted to know about the message. She listened quietly, then said, is she sorry? I don't know. Did she say sorry? No. Then she wants something. That child had learned too much too young. I told Priya not to respond. A month later, another message came. Mum wanted family mediation. Then another. Mum wanted to give us jewelry. Then another. Mum said time was passing. Mum said daughters should not be hard-hearted. I kept waiting to feel guilty enough to break, but guilt had changed shape. It no longer sounded like Mum. It sounded like 11-year-old Miriam asking if we were orphans. It sounded like my own voice in court saying I did not want to be payment for a debt I did not make. So I wrote one statement through Priya. My sister and I are safe. We do not consent to contact. Any future requests should go through legal channels. That was all. No insults. No explanation. No daughter begging to be understood. Just a locked door. The final hearing for my application to become Miriam's special guardian happened the spring I turned 21. I was still studying, still broke, still healing, but I had stable housing, support from Joan and Peter, glowing reports from Glenn, and a sister who told the judge she wanted Hannah to be my home person. The judge smiled at that. Miriam moved in with me gradually, first weekends, then school holidays, then permanently, with Joan and Peter still in her life because love is not a limited supply unless adults make it one. On her first night in my flat, she unpacked 3 bags, 12 books, 1 lamp shaped like a frog, and the stuffed rabbit she claimed she had outgrown but still placed carefully on her pillow. At midnight, I found her standing in the hallway. "What's wrong?" I asked. She looked embarrassed. "Nothing, I just wanted to check you were here." I opened my bedroom door wider. "I'm here. Are you going anywhere?" "No." "Promise?" I thought about all the promises adults had broken around us. Then I said the only true thing I could. "If I ever have to go somewhere, I will tell you. I will not disappear." She nodded and went back to bed. I stood there for a moment, in my own hallway, in my own flat, with my own keys hanging by the door. My parents had put Miriam on that flight to make me obedient. They thought fear would turn me into a quiet bride and her into the next warning. Instead, that threat became the sentence that saved us because my mother said it out loud and I finally let someone hear. The brother who sold me had to sit in a courtroom and say my signature was forged. The man who bought our debt lost the power he had built from silence. My parents learned that family can be evidence too. Miriam did not disappear. She grew, she stayed. She covered our fridge with drawings of animals wearing crowns, burned pancakes with me on Sundays, and kept the orange kettle even after it cracked because she said ugly things could still mean freedom. Sometimes people ask if I miss my family. I tell them I live with my family. She is in the next room shouting that I bought the wrong cereal, safe enough to be annoying. That is the consequence they never planned for. That is the life they tried to trade away, still here, still ours.